promoting dialogue.
Good evening and many thanks for staying tuned to West African Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide on wadr.org. Welcome to the third edition of Newslink. First, our top stories. Global Peace Index 2025 ranks the Gambia among Africa's most peaceful nations.
Well, Gambia has always been known as a peaceful country. And I think this shows and this demonstrates the President, His Excellency's strong leadership and his resolve to ensure this continues.
Ghana targets to become Gavi donor by 2030 after 67 million vaccine investment.
Our partnership with Gavi is one of co-finance, and I'm proud to say that over the recent years we've spent almost $67 million on vaccines in partnership with Gavi.
In Chad, opposition leader Masrar's lawyers sound alarm on arbitrary detention and due process breaches. Thousands of protesters marched through the capital on the opening day of Togo's demonstration, undeterred by state intimidation. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
My name is Sankule Jibril Janko. Thank you for joining the broadcast. Let's begin with the cherry news from the Gambia, as the nation is once again in the spotlight for all the right reasons. Now, according to the 2025 Global Peace Index, the Gambia has been ranked as the fourth most peaceful country in Africa and 55th globally out of 163 nations. The report published by the Institute for Economics and Peace emphasizes the country's low levels of conflict, strong community resilience, and relatively low militarization, key indicators that contribute to the Gambia's peaceful reputation. In response to the news, the Ministry of Information called the ranking a proud moment for the Gambia, celebrating it as a treatment to the unity and peaceful spirit of the Gambian people. Earlier, WDR spoke with the Minister of Information, Dr. Ismaila Cisse, to gain more insights into what this ranking means for the country and steps the government has taken to achieve it. Let's take a listen.
Well, there are three key factors, and that is leadership. The leadership of His Excellency, the President Adama Barrow, has been very instrumental in ensuring that the Gambia achieves this very important achievement. Now, since the transition in 2016, the President has taken measures and designed policies and programs that ensure that Gambia is secure, safe, and stable. And then this has been recognized by the Global Peace Index. That is why we are ranked number 4 as the most peaceful country in the continent and number 55 globally. Well, Gambia has always been known as a peaceful country. And I think this shows and this demonstrates the President, His Excellency's strong leadership and his resolve to ensure this continues. Now, for us, we are not even satisfied. We want to become number 1 in Africa, and this is what we are working towards, to become number 1 in Africa. Let me tell you something, when people don't get information, they can get agitated. They don't know what's happening. So we bridge that gap between the government and the public. We ensure that there is no gap, that whatever the government is doing, the public is aware. But also, we also make sure that the government knows what are the public's aspirations, what are their challenges, what are their demands and their concerns. We bring it to the government so government can react and respond to these aspirations and these challenges. This is what policymaking should be now. That is what policymaking is about under the leadership of His Excellency. That is, we make policies to respond to people's needs and challenges. I think this is one way to ensure that the public is at ease and the public has confidence and trust in the government. And when these things happen, then obviously peace is the product.
Dr. Ismaila Cisse is the Minister of Information for the Gambia. In the Sahel, Mali's Constitutional Court has declared itself incompetent to consider a request for the dismissal of Transitional President General Assimi Goïta. The ruling, dated June 18, 2025, was published in the official journal on Tuesday. The request for the impeachment of the President Assimi Goïta was filed by a Malian citizen, Seydou, known as Cheikhna Diallo, who accused the head of state of high treason for, according to him, having violated his presidential oath. On this basis, he requested the initiation of impeachment proceedings as provided for in Article 73 of the Constitution of July 22, 2023. Abraham Parker has more details in this report.
The letter stipulates that a president may be removed from office by a 3/4 majority of parliament meeting in Congress. However, the court recalled that Mali currently does not have an elected parliament. Since the dissolution of the National Assembly in 2020, legislative power has been exercised by the National Transitional Council established by the military authorities. However, according to the court, this body cannot be considered a parliament constitutionally empowered to initiate impeachment proceedings. This rejection takes place within a particular institutional context. Already in May 2021, after the fall of President Bao Undao in favor of the ratification of the transition, the Constitutional Court had validated General Gotai's cessation of power, justifying its decision by the absence of an institutional alternative. The ruling of June 18, 2025, once again illustrates the limits of democratic control in a transitional framework without elected institutions. In the absence of a parliament that complies with constitutional requirements, no impeachment can, as of today, be initiated against the president of the transition.
Abraham Parker with that report. Meanwhile, back here at home, an Afrobarometer survey has revealed that a majority of Senegalese say they are concerned about their safety and express a growing desire to immigrate, while displaying a certain hostility towards foreign migrants. Augustine Colley completes the story.
Conducted from February 9 to March 9, 2025, nearly a year after the new Senegalese authorities came to power, this survey with a sample of 1,200 people highlights contrasting perceptions on internal security, migration and social cohesion. In the survey, some 58% of respondents said they felt unsafe in their homes or neighborhoods over the past year, a rate considered worrying. This feeling is more pronounced in the central part of the country than in the southern or eastern regions, which are more exposed to instability due to problems of rebellion and jihadist threats, according to Dr. Abdoulaye Diallo, researcher at CRETS and repertoire of the survey. Rural areas are the most affected, with residents feeling more exposed than city dwellers. Young people, meanwhile, feel slightly less insecure than their elders, he added. Respondents cited youth unemployment constituting 38% and drug use representing 29% as the main causes of crime. However, a majority, constituting 56%, believes that creating job opportunities is the most effective response to this problem. On the migration front, nearly half of Senegalese say they have considered leaving the country, a proportion that has been steadily increasing since 2017. The reasons given are mainly economic, job research, better living conditions, future for their children.
Augustine Colley filed that report.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
President John Dramani Mahama has revealed that Ghana has spent approximately $67 million on vaccines in recent years through its partnership with the vaccine alliance Gavi. He added that the government has already paid an amount of $20 million this year as part of its co-financing obligations. Gavi, a global health partnership that brings together public and private sectors to improve access to vaccines in low-income countries, is aiming to raise $9 billion between 2026 and 2030 to immunize 500 million children globally. Speaking at the Global Health Summit organized by Gavi and the Bill Gates and Melinda Gates Foundation in Brussels, President Mahama outlined Ghana's ambition to transition from being a Gavi-supported country to becoming a donor nation by 2030.
Our partnership with Gavi is one of co-finance, and I'm proud to say that over the recent years, we've spent almost $67 million on vaccines in partnership with Gavi. One of my first decisions as president was to uncap our national health insurance. The previous government had put a cap on the statutory fund of the National Health Insurance. So excess funding above a certain percentage of the budget went back into the consolidated fund. By uncapping the National Health Insurance, we've been able to give the insurance fund more than 3.5 billion cedis more. And so this has enabled the Health Insurance Fund that puts up the funding for our partnership with Gavi to be able to front load $20 million for our co-finance partnership with Gavi this year. So on behalf of the children, I want to say thank you to Gavi. We are hoping that we'll fast track our weaning of Gavi by 2030. We're supposed to go off Gavi funding by 2030. And it's my expectation that we'll work hard to be like Indonesia and in future become a donor country to Gavi.
Ghana's President John Dramani Mahama. In an effort to bridge the long-standing gap between regional judicial decisions and national enforcement, the ECOWAS Community Court of Justice has convened its first ever meeting of competent national authorities in Lagos. The two-day summit marks a turning point in efforts to ensure the court's judgments are not only respected but also implemented across West Africa. WDR's Abuja correspondent Yachenu Sesetu reports.
Held in Lagos from June 23 to 24, the historic meeting brought together senior justice officials, legal experts, and government representatives from ECOWAS member states to confront the persistent challenge of poor enforcement of the ECOWAS court's judgment. Briefing the press after the meeting, the acting deputy chief registrar in charge of appeals, arbitration, and enforcement, Gay Saw, revealed that only 10 of the 12 ECOWAS member states have designated competent national authorities to enforce court decisions.
We send reminders to the Nigerian government once in a while, like just a simple letter, seeking information on the status of enforcement of the following judgments. We'll have the judgments listed in our table. We also would have the orders listed, and we then would invite Nigeria to provide us with information on what it has done to enforce. But as I speak, even if the other 50 judgments have been enforced or were enforced, we haven't officially received the confirmation from the government.
So decried enforcement rates across the region.
We don't have any country that has 100% compliance rate. We also have some member states that have not, from our records, enforced a single judgment. That's just the reality. Maybe Nigeria leads the pack with about 10. And of course, I should also state, out of the 125 judgments, 65 were dismissed cases dismissed for one reason or the other.
In his closing remarks, the president of the ECOWAS Court, Justice Ricardo Claudio Monteiro Gonçalves, urged government to deepen their commitment to upholding regional justice and accelerating implementation of the court's decisions. The meeting themed enhancing the role, relevance and effectiveness of the ECOWAS Court of Justice, strengthening synergies between the court and competent national authorities, drew participation from attorneys general, ministers of justice, legal experts and high-level representatives from across West Africa. For WADR, Yechino Sasetu reporting.
In Chad, lawyers, collective representing opposition leader and former Prime Minister Dr. Success Masra have expressed growing alarm over his health condition, which they say is fragile after more than a month in custody. Recall the opposition leader on Wednesday declared a hunger strike in protest of what his lawyers call an unjust and illegal detention that has now lasted over 40 days. The announcement was made public in a letter titled Letter from Chadian Prison dated June 24. Imo Edet has the details in this report.
His party, Le Transformateur, and his legal team on Thursday at a press briefing held in the capital, Jamina, warned that the hunger strike could lead to a serious medical crisis if ignored. The Lawyers Collective outlined several serious violations of legal procedure, including Masra arrested without a warrant, while his residence was searched without judicial authorization and electronic devices were confiscated. According to the lawyers, his police custody was reportedly extended to 120 hours, despite the legal maximum being 96 hours. They further alleged that elements within the judicial police falsified official documents to mask these irregularities. Efforts to secure Dr. Masra's release have so far failed. On June 19, the indictment chamber dismissed the defense appeals, a move his lawyers described as part of a broader political manipulation of the justice system. They cited violations of international law, including the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, and Chad's own constitution. They have placed full responsibility of the Chadian government for Dr. Mazra's health and safety and are demanding his immediate and unconditional release, urging citizens and international actors to mobilize in defense of democracy and the rule of law in Chad.
Imo Edet filed that report. You are listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM Dakar and around the world on WADR.org. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Global Peace Index 2025 ranks the Gambia among Africa's most peaceful nations. Ghana targets to become a Gavi donor by 2030 after 67 million vaccine investment. In Chad, opposition leader Masra lawyers sound alarm on arbitrary detention and due process breaches. Still ahead, thousands of protesters marched through the capital on the opening day of Togo's demonstration, undeterred by state intimidation. We do have guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Now let's take you to Togo, where the much anticipated 3-day protest kicked off this morning. Across the country, citizens have been calling for demonstration against the backdrop of mounting socio-political tension. The series of protests which held today across the country was widely mobilized on the social media platforms by youths is expected to continue tomorrow, Friday and Saturday despite authorities' resistance. The protesters are demanding the immediate resignation of President of the National Council, Faure Gnassingbé, who has been in power for 20 years. Opposition political groups and civil society have denounced the country's governance, increased rights abuses, and shrinking civic and media spaces, among others. These demonstrations are taking place despite a warning by the state authority against any unauthorized protests which would disrupt public order. Abdullah Hassan brings us the report.
The protest announced by Togolese influences living abroad began this Thursday. A tour of certain neighborhoods in Lomé reveals a peculiar atmosphere. Shops and businesses are closed, streets half empty or even tentatively opening, listening to the evolving situation. At the capital's main intersections and strategic areas, the presence of security forces is visible. Uniformed police and military personnel are stationed at various locations. At Ikome intersection, Tokoin Protestant College, Decon Blay Market, Bipakoto intersection, Colombe de la Paz intersection, among others. Some are equipped with batons, shields, riot control cords and weapons. In Honope, around 10 a.m., youth barricaded the access road to the market with stones. Some local residents, due to the retaliation, do not want to join the demonstration. A local resident speaks out. He says, "What we want is the country's progress, and we simply demand the departure of President Faure Gnassingbé. We want another person to lead the country. Here, Hanupe, the young people are hungry. Yes, we are blocking your way to express our discontent. Those who are on the road are afraid. Those who remove my fear. And they are aware what you have to eat at lunchtime or in the evening is a problem. Don't they see what is happening?" For several weeks, Togo has been rocked by a wave of popular protest. Calls for demonstrations, led in particular by activists, bloggers and citizen movements, are demanding greater public freedoms, democracy and better governance. While these demonstrations are banned by the government since 2022, the protesters plan to continue tomorrow, Friday and Saturday.
A report by WDR's Sylvie Ouedraogo in Lomé and voiced by Abdullah Hassan. In other news, the African Export-Import Bank, Afrexim Bank, commenced its 32nd annual meetings themed Building the Future on Decades of Resilience in Nigeria's capital Abuja on Wednesday. In his welcome note, Dennis Denya, Senior Executive Vice President, African Bank, called for strengthening African institutions to navigate the emerging world order. Denya highlighted the importance of building strong, independent institutions, promoting good governance and fostering regional cooperation. Then he has said that macroeconomic management, structural reforms, and investment in key areas such as infrastructure and human capital were crucial for fostering sustainable economic growth.
The theme also was influenced by the ongoing global developments as the world continues to experience waves of global shocks with significant implications, especially for developing and vulnerable countries. Thus, this clarion call to look within and take our destiny in our own hands. An emerging fractured world characterized by heightened geopolitical tensions, economic fragmentation and realignment, increasing protectionism crystallized by trade, tariff wars, blatant disregard of rules-based multilateral trade, and heightened trade uncertainty is exacerbated by the withdrawal of aid from the continent.
Dania is the Senior Executive Vice President of Afrexim Bank. The World Drug Report 2025 by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, has revealed that Africa is experiencing a worrying increase in drug use. In a global context marked by market desertification, increased trafficking and changes in the drugs consumed. The report, which was published on Thursday, noted that globally, cannabis remains the most widely used drug, with 243 million people, or 4.6% of the global population aged 15 to 64, using it in 2023. Christopher Aticho has more details in this report.
The report indicates that in Africa, the prevalence of substance abuse reached around 10% in Southern Africa and West and Central Africa, more than double the global average. Cannabis is also the primary problem substance for 32% of people receiving treatment for drug use disorders on the continent. Global cannabis seizures remained significant, with a decline after 2020, followed by a rebound in 2023. The report stated that Africa accounted for 44% of global cannabis and recent seizures that year, ahead of the Americas, Asia, and Europe. North Africa remains a hub for recent trafficking to Western Europe. Significantly, while heroin seizures declined in most regions, they increased in Africa in 2023. Heroin from Southwest Asia transits through East Africa to other African sub-regions and to European consumer markets. Cocaine, consumed by 25 million people worldwide, representing 0.44%, is experiencing a global increase. Its production reached 3,665 tons in 2023, a historic record. At least 4,550 people have been treated for cocaine-related disorders in recent years, mainly in West, Central and Southern Africa. The region, especially West Africa, is a major transit point to Europe.
Christopher Atichu with that report.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest interview takes us to Ghana, where the suspended Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo has stirred mixed reaction with her public comments on the proceedings regarding her possible removal from office. Speaking at a press conference on Wednesday, June 25, Justice Torkornoo described the process as unfair and accused the investigative committee of bias. While some analysts argue that the embattled Chief Justice overstepped by commenting on the process being held in camera, others believe she is well within her rights to speak out. Our guest is former director of the Ghana School of Law, Kweka Ansa Asare, and he has been reacting to the press briefing by the suspended Chief Justice.
Allegations of violations of fundamental human rights were credible as they sound and may be. The court of public opinion is not a venue for her to ventilate such infraction. The appropriate venue for her leadership to have made those submissions, is the committee, set up pursuant to Article 146, of the Constitution. So if she has any frustration, she has any worrying concerns, the court of public opinion is not even the last resort. It doesn't exist. So she has to go back to the committee and make, the strongest of submissions before them, which will be incorporated into their final, their final report. And then we all, can be beneficiaries and consumers of the report, and all that she has to say, we'll get to know. What he did yesterday, was inappropriate. It appears that the Lady Chief Justice, is running amok because she has, no judicial counsel to lean on. She has to lean on, an entity's shoulder, and she can't find one. That is why, she did what she did yesterday. She did our reprimand the judicial counsel for allowing her ladyship to run amok. It is not good for the image of the country.
But what has the Judicial Council got to do with this? Is it not a personal decision she took to address the press?
The Judicial Council has been established, and among its functions, is the function of counseling the Chief Justice to behave, how to behave on the bench when, the need to draw attention to it, and how, to behave in public, and what to do and what not to do. It is the job of the Judicial Council, and I don't want to be told that she hasn't approached the Judicial Council. She need not approach the Judicial Council. It is for the Judicial Council, to realize that what is going on is in the public interest.
Another thing she talked about, which has dominated the headlines, is the location where the committee sittings are being held. She talked about a dark linkage to the killing of her uncle and guardian who was abducted while she was in the house as well. And she feels that it was deliberately chosen to intimidate her psychologically. What do you say to that?
I don't know about, she has voiced them, but my first reaction is that the venue is in Ghana, and under Ghanaian law, such hearings, have to take place at designated, venues of fora. And if the Osu Castle, has such nostalgic feelings for people, she must bring this to the attention of the committee and not to the attention of the general public.
Kweku Ansah Asare is a former director of Ghana School of Law. In sports, South Africa's Mamelodi Sundowns were held to a goalless draw by Fluminense at the Hard Rock Stadium on Wednesday, marking their exit from the 2025 FIFA Club World Cup and bringing an end to Africa's presence in the tournament knockout phase. The result seals a disappointing tournament for the continent, which fielded 4 clubs: Esperance de Tunis of Tunisia, Wydad Casablanca of Morocco, Al Ahly of Egypt, and Mamelodi Sundowns of South Africa. All 4 clubs failed to progress past the group stage. Esperance suffered a heavy 3-0 loss to Chelsea. Al Ahly played out a dramatic 4-4 draw with Porto, but it wasn't enough to qualify. Wydad Casablanca of Morocco, eliminated earlier, also struggled to make an impact. While the on-field performances were underwhelming, the participating African clubs are walking away with a record financial win forward. Each team is guaranteed 9.55 million in participation fees, an unprecedented amount compared to earnings in African competitions. We have come to the end of this edition of Newslink from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Umu Danyogo for the technical assistance. Do interact with us via our social media platforms, X and Instagram, WADR News, and on Facebook, WADR English Service, and stream live at wadr.org. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is WADR's flagship environment program, Enviroscope, with Abdullah Hassan. I am Sankule Jibril Janko. Good evening.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County.